Hello everyone and Happy New Year! Yes, it is that time again, the end of one year and the beginning of another. Time to reflect on the past and look ahead to the future. So let's talk about New Year resolutions. Do you participate in this year-end ritual? Did you keep your resolution from last year? Do you even remember what it was? It's okay, I don't remember mine either. If I'm honest, I couldn't name a single resolution I've ever kept, much less one I've ever made. It's no surprise that most people fail to keep their New Year resolutions. The jokes about failing are as much of a tradition as the resolution itself. But what does it mean to make a resolution? What is a resolution anyway? Where did this idea of New Year resolutions come from? And why do 90% of us who make New Year resolutions fail to keep them? In this video, we'll explore the linguistics and the history of the New Year resolution. I'll identify the simple reason that most resolutions fail. Spoiler alert, it has nothing to do with willpower. And I'll reveal the one resolution to rule them all. It's so powerful, it makes accomplishing your other goals actually possible. So be sure to watch to the end. But first, check this out. I found the top 10 most popular New Year resolutions for 2026. Exercise more, save more money, eat healthier, spend more time with friends and family, lose weight, improve job performance, do more for the environment, reduce job stress, spend less time on social media, quit smoking. Nothing too surprising on that list, right? We've probably all made at least one of those resolutions in the past. Looking at this list, I see two broad categories, behavioral and aspirational. We either aspire to a particular desired state, like a less stressful job or better relationships, or we want to change our behavior in some way, like quitting smoking or spending less time on social media. But what lies underneath wanting to change a behavior and wanting to achieve a particular state? To put it in the most simple terms I can think of, it's the desire to be a better human being. You clicked on this video because a part of you wants to be better in some way next year, to reach a desired state or change a behavior. This is not surprising. As I was researching the history of the New Year resolution, it became obvious that this desire to be better is an inherent human trait. And it's been deeply ingrained in our society and cultures for a very long time. We'll explore that history in a minute, but first, let's find out what resolution actually means. If we look up resolution in a dictionary and the related words of resolve and resolute, we find, well, a tangled mess of definitions. Typical English language shenanigans. I'll spare you the boring details. The most relevant meanings come from resolute, marked by firm determination, and resolve, fixity of purpose. So we could say to make a New Year resolution is to firmly determine with purpose to accomplish something. Yeah, but that sounds a lot like willpower, doesn't it? Yes, we almost always hang our hopes of New Year resolution success on our willpower. But 90% of us fail. Does that mean only 10% of us possess the willpower to actually succeed, and the rest of us are doomed to fail time and time again? Well, maybe, but I don't think so. I believe we get tripped up because, in a sense, we've turned a centuries-old human tradition into a battle of willpower. To see where we've lost the plot, let's rewind the clock and look at how the idea of a New Year resolution has shifted from making a sacred vow into this battle of willpower. Okay, so if you had to guess, how old do you think the history of the New Year resolution is? 100 years old? 200? 500 years old? Well, if you're a trivia nerd like me, you might recall that one of the first printed references of the phrase New Year resolution occurred in a Boston newspaper around 1813. But the tradition of the New Year resolution is far more ancient and religious than our modern focus on gym memberships, diet plans, and budgeting apps. We treat it like a modern secular habit, but the New Year resolution is actually a 4,000-year-old tradition that has evolved across 4 distinct eras, transforming from sacred vows into the mundane goals that we set today. The first records come from the ancient Babylonians around 2000 BC. Their new year coincided with the spring equinox, and every year they made solemn vows to their gods to pay their debts and return borrowed farm equipment. They called this the divine contract. Keep your word, and the gods grant you a harvest. Break it, and you risk divine wrath. Fast forward 2,000 years to ancient Rome, where Julius Caesar established January 1st as the start of the new year to honor Janus, the two-faced god of transitions. One face looked back at the year that was, the other looked forward to the year to come. During the New Year festivities, Romans made pledges of good conduct, believing that the first day of the year set the spiritual tone for the next 365 days. By the medieval era, the tradition split. Knights took the peacock vow, placing their hands on a bird to reaffirm their societal commitment to chivalry. Meanwhile, by 1740, John Wesley, the founder of Methodism, shifted the focus back to the soul, creating covenant renewal services, a New Year's Eve ritual of reflecting on past sins and resolving to live a more pious life. But in the 1800s, the shift from divine vows to secular resolutions began in earnest, and by the mid-20th century, the New Year resolution became entirely self-centric. We stopped promising God we'd pay our debts and behave well, and started promising ourselves we'd lose weight or save money. We traded a sacred divine contract for a mundane checklist. When I look at this history of the New Year resolution, it becomes clear to me that this desire to be better is an inherent human trait. Across 4,000 years, we have always been a species that looks at new beginnings and asks, how can I do better next time? And yet, after 4 millennia, we still haven't cracked the code. The vast majority of us who resolve to do something better next year fall flat on our faces. What does that tell us about our species? Maybe I should do a video on that next. I mentioned at the beginning of this video that less than 10% of us who make a New Year's resolution actually keep it all year long. Imagine walking into a gym on January 2nd. Look at the 10 people standing around you. By next week, 2 of them will be gone. By mid-February, only 6 weeks after setting the resolution, 7 more disappear. By the time the year ends, maybe one of those people will still be showing up consistently. But why do so many fail? Well, the research bypasses the question of willpower altogether, suggesting that the majority of failures are due to unrealistic goals or from not tracking progress. Okay, on its surface, that's probably technically true. But I think the reason goes much deeper than the corporate productivity mechanics of goal setting and progress tracking. If you truly feel deep down this desire to be a better human being, whatever that looks like to you, I don't think that's ever unrealistic or unachievable. And while tracking progress certainly makes sense for some goals, doing so does not automatically lead to success, and failing to track progress does not automatically lead to failure. I believe we failed to do better not because we set unrealistic goals or didn't track our progress, but because we are not taught a vital truth. If we want to be the type of person that consistently makes decisions today that we'll be proud of tomorrow, we must cultivate a certain inner state that empowers us to do so. This inner state is often called mindfulness, practicing awareness, or conscious living. It is much less about doing and much more about being. The problem is we live most of our lives unconsciously, on autopilot. Our existence nothing more than a never-ending stream of thoughtless reaction born of impulse and habit. You've likely heard this famous line. Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In this space is our power to choose our response. Living mindfully is what cultivates this space and what creates that gap for you to make decisions that are in line with your chosen values. Think about this. Our desire to do better often surfaces in those moments of shame after we've done something we regret, long after our autopilot mode flew us right over that space we needed to make a better decision. By then, it's far too late. And yet, we have the audacity to blame ourselves for having no willpower. We try to soothe our guilt with the false promise that we'll try harder next time. Of course, we end up failing over and over again. But honestly, what does willpower have to do with any of this? Nothing. The simple reason most New Year resolutions fail is not a lack of willpower. It is a lack of awareness. Think about it. If you aren't even aware of your actions until after the fact, where would you even apply willpower? So it makes no sense to blame a lack of willpower when what you actually lack is awareness. You simply can't apply willpower to an impulse you haven't even noticed yet. You haven't failed because your willpower is weak. You failed because you were asleep at the wheel. And no amount of willpower can help a driver who isn't even looking at the road. So inhabiting that space between stimulus and response is the key to making better decisions. By the way, I did a deep dive how to cultivate this space in my last video. So if you're serious about this, I strongly recommend you watch that video next. But for now, let me give you the cliff notes. 3 keys you can start using today to begin inhabiting this space. Noticing is the gateway into this space of awareness. The very moment you realize, wait, I'm doing the thing that I said I wouldn't do, is not when you wave the white flag of defeat. It's the moment you've already won. I can't stress this enough. This is not the end. This moment is the beginning. This realization is the actual off switch for your autopilot mode. It doesn't matter if you notice before you reach for the ice cream or after you've already eaten half the tub. The moment you have noticed is the moment you have opened the gateway into this space. Quit obsessing over willpower and stop fighting reality. The reason willpower fails is because we misuse it to tell ourselves, I shouldn't want this. But you do want it. That is the reality. Instead of fighting, for example, the craving, simply acknowledge it. Just say to yourself, I am currently experiencing a strong impulse. Just this pausing and noticing and naming gives you space from that impulse. Use the 5-minute buffer. This is the practical magic of this whole practice. Once you've noticed and you're inhabiting that space, don't try to decide a yes or a no forever. Just decide for the next 5 minutes. If we're using cravings as an example, tell yourself, if I still want this in 5 minutes, I'll have just a couple of bites. This is so powerful because this 5-minute buffer is where your decision-making, New Year resolution-keeping brain lives. It gives the autopilot brain time to cool off and let go of the controls so that the authentic you can show up and begin to make conscious decisions in harmony with your values. Usually, after spending just a few minutes in this space, you'll notice that that strong impulse loses its power, loses its grip over you. And you realize and remember that you don't actually want to break your New Year resolution right now. Again, I'm using cravings as an easy example, but this applies to every automatic reaction that stands between you and the person you want to be. So this year, don't set yourself up for failure by thinking you can willpower your way into a successful New Year resolution. You can't. Not without first inhabiting this space of awareness. Yes, identify the behaviors that you want to change and the desired states you want to achieve. But don't make those your resolutions. Here is the only New Year resolution you actually need. I resolve to notice. Yes, it's that simple. And it is powerful. Here's why. You're not resolving to do a behavior. You're resolving to catch your brain. It's binary. You either noticed or you didn't. There's no failing a diet. There's only, did I notice how much I was eating? Even if you notice after eating 10 cookies, you still noticed and you kept your resolution in that moment. This is how you turn autopilot off and get your eyes back on the road of your life. We hear it all the time. Live in the moment. But how can you live in a moment that you're not even aware of? You can't live in this space if you continue to allow your autopilot to fly you right over it. So I dare you. Don't resolve to lose weight or save money or spend less time on social media. Think of those as destinations. Instead, resolve to do the one thing that makes reaching those destinations actually possible. To notice. Notice the trigger. Notice the craving. Notice whatever impulse stands between you and the person you want to become. Because remember, the moment you notice is the moment you've won. It's the moment where you take back the steering wheel of your own life. Look, you've probably spent years trying to white-knuckle your way to your goals, but all that's left you with is a drained battery and a side of guilt. So this year, give yourself permission to end the war. You don't need more willpower. You just need more awareness. When you finally resolve to notice, you stop being a passenger to your impulses and you start becoming the architect of your life. It's not about being perfect. It's about being present. Because once you finally open your eyes and see the road, you can finally decide where you're going. Okay, if you took any value from this video today, I have 3 sincere requests of you. Please like this video so YouTube shares it with others. Subscribe to my channel so that we can keep growing in our awareness together. And number 3, share this video with a friend or a family member who may be feeling discouraged and maybe next time they just need to try harder. If you're still watching, thank you for spending your time with me. It means a lot. Happy New Year, everyone. Let's make 2026 the year we finally wake up to awareness and take back the controls of our lives. Remember, be kind to yourselves and with each other. Peace. I will see you in the next video.